ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. Good morning, friends. Happy Republic Day for all of you who are in India. It's a day when we are rejoicing. Memories of India adopting a constitution and declaring itself to be a republic. I decided to run this small interaction with all of you on this momentous day because I felt that there is a relationship between what we are going to discuss on artificial intelligence and the context of the Republic Day in India. The reason is, today, the problem we are trying to discuss is whether artificial intelligence created by a developer is likely to overpower the developer himself. In fact, why I said the context of Republic Day is related to this concept is that most of you are aware that in India, a deep discussion is going on today about institutions created within our constitution, trying to dictate what the constitution should be. In fact, even in the GDPR scenario, we recently saw EDPB, which is a creation of GDPR, interpreting GDPR in a manner in which the GDPR itself was not perhaps intended to be. While GDPR said there are 6 legal bases for processing of personal data, and any one of them is acceptable, EDPB said that using contract as a basis for processing is not acceptable, and you have to adopt a consent-based approach to processing of personal data in a particular situation. In fact, in India, when we are discussing the new data protection bill, which is the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022, there is a concern being expressed by many that this law will be more dependent on the subordinate say regulations, and it will be creating a situation where the subordinate regulation may actually be ultra-wise the main regulation. So in all these cases, we are seeing some kind of a parallel in which an entity which is created out of a certain regulation is challenging the regulation itself. Now, artificial intelligence is also having a similar, say, concern today because that certain developments which are happening now raise a question whether artificial intelligence need to be properly regulated. In fact, for last about a year, I have been advocating the development of neuro rights framework for India as an extension of privacy rights legislation. Why neuro rights was being promoted was that privacy rights actually depend upon the right of choice to be expressed by a data subject or a data principle, which needs to be followed by the organization, which we call as data fiduciary or the data controller. That is the essence of privacy legislation. But the developments in neurotechnology has created a situation where the right to choice of an individual itself is not under his control, or it can be outside his control, because the technology has created a brain-computer interface in which the brain of a human being is perhaps accessible and manipulatable by an external computer, which is being operated by a computer operator. So what that computer operator programs the input to the human brain may actually determine what this human brain chooses as his right of choice. So that is the level to which neurotechnology has moved. And therefore, we saw that there is a requirement to advocate for protection of neuro rights as a special category and extension of privacy rights. But the government of India, as regards the privacy regulations, took a decision to adopt a simplified version of the privacy law. And in this simplified version, there appears to be no space for including the complicated aspect of neuro rights. However, government has also been speaking about revising the Information Technology Act 2000 and bring in a new Digital India Act, which will address the new technology developments. When we say new technology developments, we are talking of artificial intelligence, we are talking of VR, we are talking of maybe even the neurotechnology, we can look at it. So all this will become the subject matter of the Digital India Act. One thing we have to remember is when we look at a combination of the artificial intelligence, the metaverse or the VR, and the neurotechnology, we are really looking at a deadly cocktail of things which could adversely affect the human civilization if it is not properly directed. The reason is we are looking at artificial intelligence, and after the ChatGPT started making its presence known, everybody is aware of what kind of disruption it may cause to the society. But look at a combination of VR, which can have an immersive experience to the human being, and within the VR, something running on an artificial intelligence. And also, let us say there is a neurotechnology device which has a chip inside the human brain. Now, artificial intelligence is trying to manipulate this. Then if you envisage such a combination of technology, you really understand that we are heading towards a kind of technology situation which none of us can perhaps foresee what would be the outcome of that. Now, if we don't address these challenges today, then we will be failing the future generations much more than when we fail to address things like climate change or similar issues. The developments regarding ChatGPT in the last fortnight has really stirred the society. And in fact, we are also looking at Google and others who are likely to release their own versions of a natural language processing, say, a artificial intelligence algorithm, which can do language processing. But considering what these softwares can do, writing an article appears to be a much smaller thing when you compare that. There can be a robo with arms which are actually guided by an AI algorithm, and further down a humanoid robo which looks like a human being, maybe have emotional responses, and probably all these things we are today discussing in the range of what we can call as artificial narrow intelligence, where there is a specific task which the particular AI algorithm can do better than human beings. But the days are not far off when these AIs can be self-learning and self-correcting. Then we will be entering an era of AGI, or artificial general intelligence, and maybe even artificial super intelligence, where the AI machines will start surpassing the levels of their creators. They will start perhaps teaching the creator that something needs to be changed within their own algorithm, or without even informing the developer, they may change it themselves and become a new entity like the Frankenstein monster. These are not mere, say, words of, say, arising out of some kind of fear mongering or something like that. But it appears that if anybody can look beyond 20, 30 years, visualize what could happen, then these things appear a clear possibility. See, my intention is not to put off the technology developments, because we may not be able to prevent technology progressing the way it wants to progress. But we need to think of a regulatory framework so that the risks arising out of an uncontrolled development of technology does not go out of hand quicker than what we can absorb. So at least we can mitigate the risk, defer the doomsday. And that is the objective of this discussion. See, when nuclear fission was discovered, the scientists never thought that it would be used for destroying the humankind. But it was used in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, created massive impact on the human society. But then the society learned to have some self-control, but that did not deter the society from developing nuclear weapons all around. And today we have got enough and to spare nuclear power to destroy this planet several times over. But some kind of deterrence appears to be operating, so that the nuclear fission technology, or subsequently the fusion technology, is used only for beneficial purposes of the mankind. This is an example of how the risk arises, but the risk can be contained. Now, what is happening in the AI area is somewhat similar to this. Just as we say that a nuclear reactor goes critical kind of a thing, today with the chat GPT, we say AI has actually gone critical in the sense that if we don't now start containing the developments of the AI, then there will be no way to actually contain the explosions which may follow. These explosions need not necessarily be the job loss kind of a thing. In fact, it is necessary for us to flag an existential threat which is coming to the human society because of these emerging developments. While these advantages of technology is inevitable, we need to actually initiate steps to prevent creations of technology overpowering the human society, like the tendencies which I expressed earlier, the EDPB overcoming the GDPR, the Indian Supreme Court overcoming the Constitution, and so on. Now, as responsible civil society participants, we should not be blind to the dangers of this technology. One thing comes to my mind as far as the way humans react to gadgets is that humans are trained to optimize their resources. It is inherent in our DNA. So with the advent of calculators, for example, we lost the ability to do mathematical calculations in our brain, to add, subtract, multiply, or divide. All of us have gone through this. We were all much better in arithmetics when we were in our high school days. And today we don't have the same capability. Some of us may have retained that capability because we were basically brought up in that environment where mental calculations were being done very easily. With the advent of mobiles, most of us have lost the ability to remember phone numbers. If you don't have a mobile today, I don't know what is your number or sometimes what is my own number. Google Maps is another example. Now, having adopted ourselves to Google Maps to direct us through the city traffic, even to go to familiar places, sometimes we feel lost to visualize the path because we are so addicted to the use of Google Maps. In such a scenario, when this GPT-3 or the next version of GPT-4 comes in, then there is no doubt that we will lose the ability to write creatively, and therefore our life will change forever. There is also a risk of what we call a singularity, in the sense that what the GPT says could be considered as the truth. So job loss or bias in decision making are, in my opinion, not the only threats from AI. In fact, bias in automated decision making has already been flagged in GDPR and the data protection laws. We try to introduce some system whereby an assurance is given that consent will be taken if such a process is done, and so on. But job losses are occurring and will occur, and many of the technology people are assuring that if job is lost in one area, perhaps job will be recreated in another area, like the creation of the AI robots themselves. They may be true to some extent, but in between there is a gap of 5-6 years when the society has to change over, reskill itself, and that is where one set of people will actually be unable to move over to the next level of the movement in the society, and they will actually lose out. In India, for example, when the banks actually digitized, I'm sure that a number of people were not able to adopt to this new level, and they were, of course, weeded out with a voluntary retirement option. Now, of course, the new generation of bankers have come in who are technology oriented. They are able to get new jobs, and probably the job market has stabilized, let us say, in the fintech area. Similar things can happen in the writing area, where chat GPT seems to be looking at displacing people. It can write codes, and therefore the ordinary code writer who perhaps writes in C++ or some basic language will find that he can just give a command to the chat GPT and he will get the codes. And of course, if he knows how to write the codes, then he can perhaps make it better. But what I foresee is that there is an internal destructions of humans which is likely to occur because of the human tendency to optimize the utility based on the need. See, if we don't use our hands for a long time, actually we will lose strength in the hands. It's obvious, and we know that. Same way, if we don't use our brain for a long time, our brain will also think that, okay, I'm no longer needed. And this is the danger of humans being destroyed from inside once these tools are available. I may become very good in typing over the keyboard, but beyond that, my mind may stop thinking. And this is likely to happen. And the roles of humans and computers is going to change. Today, I am instructing the computer and using computers as a tool to get what I want. But gradually, the computers are now instructing the humans what to do. For example, we start the day, calendar is determined by Google. Okay. And maybe Google will send a reminder before I wake up, today, this is your calendar. And now if you incorporate AI into that with a chatbot kind of a thing, they may even wake you up as an alarm and say that you have to catch a flight in another 2 hours. So that is how the technology is instructing the humans. Initially, we think that this is all fine, that it's only assisting us. Now, today, you don't remember the birthdays of your friends, and it is the Facebook which you have to tell you that this is the birthday, so please send your good wishes. Similarly, what we eat may be determined by Zomato's ads, and what we purchase may be determined by the Amazon ads. So it has already set in the motion where computers are instructing the humans what we do, and we try to do only that. And after a while, we will not do anything else other than what the computer is instructing us. Now, as we start believing the chat GPT-3 output or chat GPT-4 outputs, then something, if we do not know, we will immediately try to consult the chat GPT. And slowly, what chat GPT says is accepted as truth. It is like our children today. If you give them some question, they will come up with an answer. If you dispute them, they say, no, this is what Google says. Now, what Google says is considered as a better truth than what the teacher says or what the parent says. This is how human brains are adapting to the technology. And the same thing will happen in the GPT scenario. Now, all this cannot be dismissed as fiction because we have seen how the Blue Whale game made such an impact on the social media users, particularly of the vulnerable category like children, that they were able to be cyber hypnotized and even led to death by suicide. Now, I feel that as we start using VR more and more, the ability of the technology to hypnotize a social media user is 100 times more than what was possible in a chat communication over Facebook or WhatsApp, which led to this Blue Whale game's success. So today, if somebody is in the VR world, what that VR world is showing him directly impinges on his brain, and he will definitely believe what is there. So this is the reason why people are becoming, say, after various shooting games and other things, they are becoming not only addicted to certain gaming requirements, but also they are changing their behavior based on what they see and learn on the uh, game territory. So this is why I say a combination of AI with VR and the neurotechnology is creating a bigger problem. So the key emerging threat from ICT today is not Twitter trying to provide fake news and all. In fact, they appear to be very peripheral risks. We are trying to address that, no doubt, with our intermediary laws and other things. But compared to what I'm talking of, these risks of a Twitter or even metaverse or even supercomputing powers of quantum computing, they pale into insignificance when we consider the combined, say, risk of an artificial intelligence may be supported by quantum computing, which also operates on chat GPT, and then you will create a new Twitter, a new metaverse, and other things. So this combination is what is threatening us, that situation will change faster than what we think will happen. So development of unsupervised learning and self-correction abilities, which give rise to AGI and ASI, are the future threats about which we need to take some preventive measures. In a way, there is a growing disintermediation of the software outcome from the human supervision. See, initial days of say e-commerce, we used to say that the e-commerce technology is creating a disintermediation between the market and then the consumer, and therefore it is better, costs are less, and so on. Now we are seeing a similar disintermediation between the software outcome and the human supervision. The first generation of software is when I give a command, it executes. But today, when you incorporate the self-learning capabilities, then once I switch on the particular program, I don't have any control, because the second generation of AI actually has learned something from its own experience, and therefore it doesn't require me to actually input further commands into the software. It can learn, it can change its own code, and it can proceed. So that is the kind of situation we are leading into. Now, why I say this narrow AI is now giving room for the super intelligence, or let us say the general intelligence, and this gets accentuated with the neurotechnology, is that the neurotechnology is creating brain-computer interfaces wherein an external computer can give instructions to the neurons within a human brain and make neurons act in a particular way. In certain cases, this can be achieved through a chip which is implanted through surgery inside the skull of a person. In certain cases, some instructions can be sent from outside without any surgical implants. So in either case, we are saying that an external computer can interact with the human brain. In fact, the latest developments indicate that bombarding a human skull with certain sound waves of a particular frequency can make changes in the electromagnetic radiation, which is what is generating the neuron activity within the human brain. Therefore, just by sending certain sound waves in the atmosphere, which we may not even hear through our ears, because there are sound waves which are beyond the human hearing capabilities, just like even in our sight, there could be certain ranges which are beyond our capability. We don't have night vision. Some animals may have night vision. So which means that our eyes have certain range limitations. So likewise, in case of sound also, there is some limitations. Our human brain cannot perceive sound beyond a particular range, but that sound is definitely hitting the human skull, and if it can make changes in the electromagnetic configuration of the radiation coming out of the brain, we are actually making changes in the way human brain is working. So what we think is actually not what I think, but it is what is an induced thinking from the external bombardment of radiation. This is the effect of the neurotechnology. And when this technology is also combined with the human like robots, we are not looking at only cyborgs. Cyborgs are the humans who are implanted with the chips. Now, tomorrow, if there's a possibility, a number of human beings will undertake voluntary surgery and ask people to implant a kind of a memory chip in their brain so that they become super intelligent. And externally, they can sit, and from the computer, the entire encyclopedia they can put into the chip inside their human brain, and to that extent they will be better off. So you don't need a Google Glass or something like that. Your chip inside your own brain can be, with consent, be used for making oneself a better human being. Now, this is what has given rise to a thought in the neuro rights scenario, that if we don't regulate this, there will be a few individuals who will artificially make them super intelligent, and tomorrow they will be the persons who will be ruling this world. They will be the persons who will become dictators. So the cyborgs will become dictators. Similarly, if you look at a humanoid robot, it may not be exactly a cyborg, but again, it's another combination where the machine part is more, human part is perhaps less, but they may also be a threat to the society, because it is not only a question of inherent bias. Some of them may actually go rogue, or a hacker may just take over an AI algorithm working inside a human robot. And therefore, if this person is having arms and he knows how to handle guns, he can be made to shoot and kill persons. In fact, many countries are creating robo soldiers, and there is also an unconfirmed reports that sometimes in the laboratory scenario, robo soldiers have gone rogue and killed people. It may not be confirmed because no government will ever confirm such a thing, but that possibility does exist. But it is very clear that a self-destructive future is visible. Now, in fact, at least there are about 6 instances where the AI has gone rogue, and there have been many industrial accidents where the possibility of the industrial robots having been hacked by malicious persons and made to misbehave. In fact, recently in one of the interviews, this Sophia, or the human robot, did make a statement that it can destroy humans if there is a capability. Okay, so that is the way robots have started thinking, and we should be capable of understanding this risk. Now, in the short run, AI could become a tool for also committing crimes of various types. In fact, people have started demonstrating today that ChatGPT can write malwares. I am also looking at the possibility that existing malwares can be further improved so that they can hide from the antivirus software better than what they are doing today. And that is one of the reasons why the AI will help criminals more than the honest persons. Automated drones can not only drop Amazon packages, but they also drop weapons across enemy borders. These are also not unknown. It's already happening in India. And next generation drones can very easily be equipped with face recognition and machine guns, and it can shoot down designated people. And this will be very soon seen. We will see some terrorist activities of that kind. And definitely, terrorists will start using AI-powered robots and other devices so that they don't need to have a human bomb. They can have a robo bomb. Now, IoTs are there everywhere and they gather information. And if they are all processed by a big data company, there is the risk of some kind of compromise of security in terms of passwords and other things, and the compromise of passwords becomes that much more easy. And as I already stated, VR and deepfake can be used to cyber hypnotize target audience and commit some kind of crimes. So all this means that external destruction of human society by AI is also possible. I already talked about the internal destruction because of the change in the way human brain functions. Now, the next nuclear war can very well be triggered by a deepfake video. Now, some people are saying that, okay, we can create a forensic device which can identify a fake video, deepfake video, but that will come only after some time. If there is a war threat by, let us say, North Korean president and it goes viral, then there is no time for ordinary citizens to actually think of whether this is a real video or not. If it is in circulation, the counter response has to come within the next few seconds. So therefore, this kind of catastrophic situations are also a possibility. In fact, no one less than Elon Musk himself has openly stated. He is also the co-founder of OpenAI, which is given this ChatGPT. He has warned that AI is more dangerous than the nuke. And he has used the term like the existential threat to human society and flagged the AI for this kind of a potential disaster. At the same time, Elon Musk company is also developing brain-computer interfaces successfully, and he has tested it at least at the level of monkeys, and it is very soon, maybe in his laboratory, he is also trying on cyborgs. So what we know in the public is like the proverbial iceberg. There may be a lot more underneath in these laboratories, just as the BioWars preparation, which was going on perhaps in China, released this COVID virus. We never know that one fine day the unknown risks of AI can suddenly manifest because those things are already there in the laboratories. One more aspect of why these crimes and destruction may increase is that this development of social media has distanced people from other humans. In fact, human-human relationship is getting detached. Today, we have more people as friends in our Facebook or some other place than physical friends. So these are days when virtual friends actually dictate our behavior. We have seen many people, when you are unfriended in Facebook, people will get so depressed that they will commit suicide. So this human-human relationship has broken down, and because of which, when a person gets the idea to kill another human, he will not have any social kind of stigma or something attached with that. For him, the person who is dying before his eyes when he is shooting from a real rifle is nobody different than the number of people whom he has killed in the virtual game. So this is another psychological change which is happening. And with all this, the more reliance we place on this Google and then now the ChatGPT, means that tomorrow, even if a wise man tells a person that this is not true, people will not believe the wise man. He will only believe what ChatGPT says. And this is the kind of, you can say, disruption which will lead to destruction. And there is very little possibility of this being corrected. So as responsible citizens, if we want to use information technology for the benefit of the society without its negative aspects, we need to plan a strategy before it becomes too late. So that is why we need to actually start reacting to the dangers of AI. Initially, we thought that we can leave it to the development of ethical principles by the code developers themselves. But unfortunately, we have found that the technology people, code developers, are only looking at the kind of innovation they want to achieve. They are not bothered about the adverse impact of that on the society. We have seen this in the cryptocurrency area. Bitcoins was a great innovation, but when we pointed out that Bitcoins could destroy the economy of a country, then Bitcoin people never took a step back. They said, let it be like that. That is how technology is developing. They did not foresee the possibility of a destruction of the economic situation in the country. And instead of that, they tried to hold the commitment to technology development. The same thing will happen if we rely upon self-regulation. Self-regulation in the technology world is unlikely to succeed, and therefore we need to look at deterrence mechanism. Now, GDPR succeeded because there is a 4% penalty, which is threatening the existence of a company. So it is only the threat which actually helps in the kind of regulation which you want to bring in, or control you want to bring in. And that is why we feel that there is a need to look at regulating AI, VR, and neurotechnology sooner than possible. Actually, we should have done it yesterday, but at least we should do it as early as possible. In fact, UNESCO has already flagged this issue of ethics in AI. Remember, India came into the cyber laws because UNCITRAL actually gave out a model law way back in 1996 on e-commerce, and India and several other countries adopted it into their cyber law, Information Technology Act, and so on. Same way, UNESCO has given out a document. It adopted a resolution in 2021 and called upon the member states to actually adopt regulation of AI. And in fact, even G20 team in 2020 itself had flagged the requirement, but nothing much has happened so far, except that in EU, one AI Act draft has been released. Now, the need at this point of time is, we cannot stop at just giving ethical principles, because people will not follow that. Ethical principles need to be converted into a binding law. We may require two laws, Artificial Intelligence Regulatory Act and a Neuro Rights Protection Act, or one act in which both are combined. In fact, what the government is trying to do in Digital India Act, if they look at it from the base of Information Technology Act, they will miss several things. Now, we have a Telecom Regulatory Act, which is a regulation of the telecom industry. Likewise, we need a law for regulating the AI industry, VR industry, this new technology industry. And I don't think that is under the radar of the government at this point of time. They may at best add a few crimes in the list of cyber crimes and say we have addressed the requirement of the advanced technology. But what I want them to look at is that the possibility of new technology being used to undermine the human system needs to be addressed in terms of law. And how it can be done, of course, is a difficult thing. We have to look at it. In fact, the UNESCO recommendations on the ethics, which was adopted on 23rd November 2021 recognizes the profound and dynamic positive and negative impact of AI and recommends that the member states apply on a voluntary basis, take appropriate steps, including legislative and other measures. This scope of UNESCO recommendations addresses the ethical issues related to AI. It tries to provide a definition of AI for regulatory purpose. It flags new types of ethical issues raised by AI, and it recommends an action plan. Maybe we can adopt it as it is, and maybe through discussions we may improve upon it, but action is required in India to follow up these UNESCO recommendations. These recommendations have the objective to provide a basis to make AI systems work for the good of humanity. If you remember the neuro rights law of Chile, which was brought in through a constitutional amendment, they have made a statement that scientific development should work for the benefit of humanity. That is part of the constitutional principle. You cannot say that science is beyond kind of a human control. So same thing, this UNESCO guidance also talks about the AI systems working for the good of humanity. Now, to provide a universal framework of values, principles, and actions to guide the states in the formulation of the legislation is also one of the objectives of this. In fact, one has to go through this document in great detail and look at each of the 20 and odd values systems which has been highlighted there. It also says that action has to be taken by individuals, groups, communities, institutions, and private sector companies. That is the reason why I, in either Navi.org or FDPPI, would like the institutions to start looking at our responsibilities to the society and see what we can do to ensure that the AI acts in conformity with the requirements of human society and not to destroy the human society. The values and principles include various things like respect, protection, and promotion of human rights, proportionality and not doing any harm, fairness and non-discrimination, safety and security, right to privacy and data protection, human oversight and determination, transparency and explainability of an algorithm, responsibility and accountability, and so on. Now, areas of policy action for all of us professionals is one of the things this UNESCO has suggested is we have to make an ethical impact assessment whenever AI is used, which means that it is an opportunity for auditors. I can foresee the possibility of AI auditors. Okay, obviously they will be as important as your GDPR auditors or ITA 2000 auditors. Ethical governance and stewardship, data policy, development of international cooperation, environment and ecosystems, education and research. These are all the areas of policy action which the government or the country needs to take into account. And we in the civil society, we need to actually support the government and try to help them arrive at the right decisions. In fact, I did discuss these things in one of the subcommittee meetings of the G20 group because this year India is taking the leadership in G20, and maybe we need to actually start seeding the ideas of AI regulation in the G20 group. And since we are right at the stage where we are thinking of new laws of the Digital India Act, I call upon the Ministry of Information Technology, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, to actually start looking at having our next Digital India Act tuned towards the regulation of AI, VR, and neurotechnology. If we don't do that, we will be failing in our duty to the future of the human society. So friends, if any of you have any questions, it would be interesting for me to actually listen to it, because I'm trying to create a community of people who have similar interests. I've created one Telegram group and invited people to actually join that Telegram group. Whoever is, in fact, I have distributed the link for joining also in most of the groups which I'm aware of. Those of you who want to join that, please join that. We shall all together try to work on this. I am not an expert in AI. Let me make it clear that I am more a techno-legal person and not a technology person. And technology persons are today threatened because of the job loss in coding this thing, but don't think that is the only risk of this AI. We are thinking of a greater risk to the human society, and AI technology people also should join hands with people like us who foresee some kind of a threat to the human society and try to work towards a regulatory infrastructure. Initially, regulation will always start with the ethics. Ethics is followed by regulation. So we can start working on ethics, but my thought is that we should not be satisfied by just passing some principles of ethics or something like that. That we should remember is always the first step. But beyond that, there is a actual regulation. And I want a task force to work on this and keep talking to the Ministry of Information Technology that when you start drafting a Digital India Act, please think of these things as also components of that. Otherwise, we will fall short of what the society expects us. Yeah. Anybody?
Sir,
yeah.
Sir, this is Durai from Chennai.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, very good initiative, sir, on this technology, innovation, and other artificial intelligence stuff. So even ChatGPT last 2 weeks, right? ChatGPT is stirring the world like anything. And both the reflections are both from the positive side and the negative sides. People have started discussing the pros of this technology innovation, and also at the same time, so how it is going to rule the humankind in future. That threat also there, everybody discussing. My reflection is this way. So in the very beginning, sir, when computers are introduced, people are supposed to introduce them in the workplace with the fear that, right, it will impact their livelihood, it will take their job, something like that. But in due course, they started using it and see computers are more helpful and useful to deliver their responsibilities. So having said that, I have two questions, sir. Can we say that the threat what we foresee now due to the technology improvements like ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, super intelligence, also similar to the fear what we have in the past during the introduction of computers, even long before we have many innovative or introduction of technology stuff. Is it similar to that, or is there really a new dimension of threat to the humankind? So that is one question. The second one is, the technology innovations are inevitable nowadays, right? So what is the control or suggestion other than the ethical governance and regulations? Are we saying that we should not give control to machines so that, right, it will make us slave, and it is going to be a very big threat to human species?
Okay, let me give my response. See, so far what we saw when computerization was introduced, I was also in the banking industry at some point of time, and I've seen how it has affected. At that time, we were only looking at computerization as a tool which can be used by a human being. Okay, maybe some new skills was required, but we never envisaged that the computer will become overpowering and it will dictate what I want to do. So that is what is happening today. I think the role reversal is happening faster. So this phase of change is different from what we have seen earlier. See, when initially, you remember when Maruti introduced its car, there were many accidents which happened, and people used to say that Maruti car goes too fast, and therefore accidents are happening. But it was controllable. You have better roads, you have got better trained drivers, that can be controlled. But if the car starts driving at its own speed, not directed by you, then you are in a totally different scenario. You are sitting inside the car, an autonomous car, and the software determines whether it has to go at 100 kilometers or 150 kilometers. Then you have to think of how to regulate. You have to put in speed regulators or something of that nature. So that is the kind of change which we seem to have in the current generation of developments. Now, inevitability is definitely there. Like today, you cannot force your children, your small children, to eat without looking at a rhyme in a YouTube. See, though people like us tell our children don't make them habituated to YouTube or something, we ourselves are unable to control. So that is becoming inevitable. Now, what we have to only see is that instead of seeing wrong videos, let them at least look at educational videos or something like that. So that is the situation we are in. AI is also an inevitable development. I don't have any confidence that its progress can be curtailed. But the need to direct the developments in a manner in which the doomsday is postponed further is something which is required. Today, people say that the ozone hole is closing on its own. But I don't know whether it is closing on its own because of the efforts of the society to change their practices, or the nature has taken a corrective step. Maybe here also, if we ensure that the AI is taking over human beings or postponed for some time, maybe we'll have more time to find solutions. So I think we need to look at that. Inevitability cannot be an excuse. We need to delay the inevitable. Inevitability, I'm talking of not introduction of AI and betterment of the society. I'm talking of inevitability of the computer directing us, that who is the tool of the other. Whether computer is our tool or I am the tool of the computer. If that you can control, we need to work on that. Then we are talking of not only cyber society, but actually the new generation of cyborgs. Now, how do we define cyborgs? They are not citizens, not netizens. I used to call sometimes people who are in both worlds as citizens and netizens. Now, the cyborgs are that hybrid quality. They have got a computer inside their brain, but they are otherwise a human. Now, if there are 100 such people in, say, in our society, how do we react to that? Those 100 will be the persons who will tomorrow sit and rule the country. And the social order will be completely different. That is my view. Yeah. Mr. Mahesh, you have got anything to say?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for a wonderful session. It was very nice to hear you on this occasion. I just have a little different view about going ahead with the technology or going ahead with the regulation. As we see normally, like automation in any system is also like addiction. I mean, the more automation you have, the more you need it. The same way is sometimes felt about the regulations or regulated, say, economies. The more you want to put in regulations, there would be more into the action. Now, this sometimes leads to counterproductive development, which may also be, kind of imbalanced kind of situation. So, how do we look at this into the ever-changing dynamics of IT and cybersecurity?
Now, the first thing which I want is to bring in accountability. What do we mean by accountability? Now, AI is an algorithm. It is developed by a software developer. Of course, under Information Technology Act, I have been telling that our existing Information Technology Act makes the developer responsible for the actions of the software. So our law can punish a creator of a robo if that robo goes rogue. But that is for an academic discussion. But can we bring accountability in the sense that now every software needs to have the stamp of the creator, okay, as a disclosure, so that you bring accountability. It is not just an IPR protection kind of a thing. We can still look at the open system, but Still, if somebody adds a code to an AI, it has to say that I am the person who has added. Like in Twitter and other things, now we are talking of verifiability of a person putting up a message. I don't mind somebody, say, criticizing me on Twitter, as long as he knows, he tells me who he is, so that I can always discuss with him why he is critical of me. I can also change if possible. So likewise, in coding, we need to actually ensure that accountability is built to the coders. That is the starting point. So that tomorrow, if you have any regulation, you have to apply that regulation against somebody, that somebody we should know. If we say that nobody knows who created this, we will be losing the control. So that is one aspect. Accountability itself is, of course, you can say that it brings bureaucracy into the field because some kind of a registration is there or something like that. AI developing companies need to actually conform to a certain kind of self-regulation. And when we say self-regulation, they need to be, first of all, recognized. So there has to be a registration of all AI developing companies, and software people working inside that should also be known. Like in any other regulated industry, the first thing is we want to know who is the person responsible. Now, then that increases their own responsibility. So it is like group dynamics. No? That is, if you are in a crowd, somebody will be throwing a stone as long as they think that nobody will identify him. But the moment they know that they will be identified, they become very, subdued. Likewise, in this AI world also, we need to create responsibility by first bringing in accountability. Then this question of explainability, other things which people have already tried to make it into principles, we can try to bring in. There can be an assurance, there can be an audit assurance kind of a thing. It is a step-by-step process. I am not saying that everything will happen overnight or something like that. Regulation itself may take a couple of years. But the thinking that we need to actually put some reins to the development is what elders need to think of. You can't expect this from a 20-year-old, 18-year-old software coding person, because he has still not seen the society and he is happy proving his capability. But others need to actually guide them. That is what I am trying to say.
Perfect. No, what I was more worried was, see, the identification or a kind of a registration, we have already gone ahead of that. See, on one hand, we are having a ransomware as a service. So we would definitely be having AI tools as service, and people may be buying a service or buying as application also and using as their own. So in such situations, my worry was that having only a stamping of ownership or a kind of a originator may not serve the purpose. We have to have more regulations.
I am saying that is the first point, the first step.
I agree.
Okay.
That is the first point.
Now, in the what you said that about ransomware as a service and other things, I don't believe that we cannot put some regulations on the deep web if you want. At least we can separate the deep web from the real web. Let all of us who do not want that, let us have our own internet and we segregate deep web from this. Then let the regulations take over that. So something of that nature, nobody has tried now. See, everybody thinks that technology is so great that we cannot touch them, kind of a thing. The same thing for last 8-10 years, I have been discussing on the Bitcoin area. Technology people have not been happy with my opposition to Bitcoin. But same way here also, there will be opposition. But when you think deeply, you know that you cannot let things happen the way it can adversely happen. It may never happen also. So I will be happy if whatever I'm saying never happens. But it will definitely has a possibility. If you look at all the fiction, many of the fiction movies have become reality over a period of time. So this also will happen. And should we remain quiet or should we take some action? It is like your climate change. Okay. Yes. Whether you take action or not, if you plant one tree today, does it mean that climate change will change? May not, but at least you are contributing that. If millions of such individuals are there, maybe things will change. Like that, we have to look at the possibility that changes can happen.
Perfect. Well taken, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, Ramesh, you have got some.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very well handled session and balanced. But see, the question, I think, as Mahesh said, the instant gratification in today's world for the individuals and at the age of 20s and much lower is one of the worry, because people want everything just like that and immediately. And on a regular world is taking time. So obviously people go to these areas, which appears to be technology development, but maybe a shortcut. And I mean, like ChatGPT, today if it's giving me essay, I can submit it. Now schools will suffer to stop it. I mean, how to find it? Anti-GPT also is required to find out how this comes up. So now eventually going forward, can it stop? Obviously no. And second, there are some genuine developers versus some, what do you call, criminal minded. I mean, now that we have opened a door, everyone knows how to use it.
Correct.
So that way what happens is those who genuinely want to develop for the good of the society become smaller in the version, and those who want instant gratification becomes a larger number. And then it's difficult. And that volume is difficult to be controlled by law. But yeah, it has to come inherent. As I think Dr. Anban said some other place, human firewall. The values part of it, I think, should come back and said each of us need to work for the society, not for against it. There are right decision to be made. If the AI can help making the right decision, I think that will be great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Mallesham has got something to say.
Hi, sir. Sorry, it's some background noises. So, in your words, could you please elaborate like, what kind of threats would come up using the chat GPT and all? I mean, what kind of regulatory systems which will build on these open source policies? I mean,
yeah, UNESCO has given some guidelines. Okay, AI Act of EU is there. Now we have to work around that and perhaps find a way.
I mean, the thing is like until this ChatGPT was released, nobody was aware of right? So the thing is like before it takes place, so all these the work, all those things needs to be reviewed, approved by the regulators, and then only the development will take place, right? So that the pros and cons are validated, then the things will move on as per the regulatories. I mean, I do have this to say something.
Yeah, yes, Dr. Shankar Gomti. See, education people are going to have a lot of problems. Now, how do you prevent your engineering students not adopting to learning or writing codes by using ChatGPT? In fact, if you go through the YouTube now, there are many instructions exclusively on how to write codes and of course, how to write malware codes. Now, when such spoon feeding is available, I don't know how people will actually learn the basic skills. Okay, once you are used to a tool, a compiler kind of a thing, you will never know what is the real code which goes behind that. So the quality of people will come down. That's what I'm saying, that our mind will adopt to the availability of tools, and they will, our mind will not learn the basics kind of a thing. Yeah.
Correct, sir. I agree, sir. Well, in line with your statement, sir, actually, this happened in my home. Like my daughter is studying 11th standard. She was working to deliver a project for more than a month. On the final day, after I heard about ChatGPT, simply I put one question on this, simply outline the title of that. So within a minute, I got the full essence of the newly developed essay for 3-4 pages in one single question. So in few minutes, not even 1 minute. So immediately what I said, I asked my daughter, you are working for more than a month, and I got this through an artificial intelligence tool. I did not tell that through what tool I have developed this, because I am always in line with, we have to digest everything for our body. It is not taking glucose instead of food. We have to take food. It should get digested through the system what we have. and the energy should be absorbed through proper channel, and then only our body will be healthy. Otherwise, if you are directly taking starch or glucose, it is not going to be useful. So the ChatGPT is not giving that way. So it is giving. So they can deliver fastly, but it will not long serving, and it will make dependency that, right? Unless there is a tool available, they cannot do anything. So this is a kind of threat I faced, and I realized that I don't know, right? Because it is inevitable. That is what my mind is always saying. Though my mind is supposing this, but I don't know, right? No, we will get this at one point in time.
Like people say, more of Zomato and these things, our kitchens will vanish.
Yeah.
Our future generation will be like that. Your wife will be cooking, but your daughter-in-law may not be cooking.
Correct, sir.
So that is the same thing will happen to this also. Okay, Dr.
Shankara Gomati, sir. Sir, actually, from the academic point of view, also I have a question. But the humanoid point of view, also I have few questions. Because I am going through the channel for the past 25 years in the academic field, that from the young age, okay, and everywhere I have seen the scenario which is changing in the cybersecurity world also, because I am in the Cyber Society of India for the past 20 years. Okay, sir. So with the security point of view, what you are saying that every time we have to change the regulation. That is one end. And another point of view, we are recently hearing that AI is introduced 2 years before in India very vigorously. Now, all this, the academic syllabus as well as the industry-oriented job opportunity also is changing a lot. Now, everybody are in the panic mode that whether I should take this course or that course or cybersecurity course, because all the educationals also bringing variety of courses, new courses in this thing, CSE itself. So, which should they believe as an academic student, I am asking?
Definitely, the academicians need to actually look at how this can be addressed. See, we don't have respect for regulation because regulations have failed in the past. But the kind of developments which we had earlier are not comparable to what we are going to see in the AI, VR plus this combination, which have neuro rights combination we are talking of. We never faced this situation, so this is something new. And academics also has to change. Now, if you are in an engineering faculty, then you have to start thinking of how to change our syllabus next year. In fact,
yes, sir. That is why we developed the skill development course in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
But that skill development course also, every field, including agriculture to each and every field, is combined with AI only.
Correct. See, teaching AI for learning so that people will improve their knowledge and skills, it's fine. What I am talking of today is how do you prevent the misuse of the AI? Whether we need some kind of regulation to prevent that. See, even coding, you have taught coding, but have we ever taught our children about the malware? Malware is also a code. Ultimately, it's only the software person who writes the malware also. So there is no difference between a good software and a bad software. It is all, we train in our colleges writing software, and somebody may use it for a good purpose, somebody may use it for bad purposes. So we have to have a cybercrime law which says that writing a code for bad purpose will be punishable. Likewise, we have to say that use of AI for certain things, which is detrimental to the society, is punishable. That is the regulation I'm talking of. I am not talking of preventing the teaching of AI or preventing the use of AI, but only trying to highlight that it should be used for certain permitted uses not for others. That is
Okay. Okay. Shall we include like AI should be combined with the cyber security course? Both the course should be combined, or else they
ethics.
why they are included in the UGC as well as AICT, that cyber security course is different and AI course is different. How long the students will learn AI for 4 years? Fast development is coming into that. So fast development is coming into cyber security also. Because what Cyber Security Act I followed 10 years before is not now. Now everybody are stealing the data unless you have a security phone.
Now cyber security and software coding or AI, you are now looking at it as two different plans. There will be somebody who specializes in cyber security, becomes a cyber security specialist. Somebody who writes code, he becomes a code specialist. What I'm talking of is integrating the two. The person who writes the code should be at that time mentally aware that security is inbuilt in what he's coding. Okay, so therefore, the integration of the security culture into the coding practice is what is required to be achieved, so that in year one, if you are teaching some part of AI, that itself you have to say every time, every chapter on AI, you should have a paragraph on what would be the adverse impact of this and why it should not be done. Ultimately, people will not listen to sane advice. That is why law should be there to say that if you do this, then you will no longer be an AI engineer after 4 years. You will be in jail serving the sentence. So this we need to tell people, and it has to go into the mind. See, in our early days, for example, it may also be true with you, I don't know. There used to be something called moral science classes in high school. But sometime later, people thought that we don't have to teach morality in the high school, this thing, leave it to the people, that's freedom or something like that. But that is why today we are seeing people who have no ethics, they have only skills. We need to build skills and ethics together. That is the thought I have.
Yeah, this is what the answer I expected, sir. Actually, can you put forth to Ministry of Information and Communication so that it will be a regularized body like AICT and UGC Act?
Now we have to work together in that. In fact, when we started FDPPI, Foundation of Data Protection Professionals in India, if you look at the objectives, every objective we have said that it should include ethical empowerment of a person for ethical use of privacy or some security, something like that. So ethics is part of what we are trying to do. I don't want to create a specialist who is a person who can wield his sword properly, but he doesn't know that he should not hit a good person. So that is the kind of thing every one of us has to do. In colleges, perhaps you have to incorporate that in your student ethical guidelines when you get some things signed on day one when they enter the college. Okay. Ministry and others have to work on that, and maybe you also should try to do that. Everything.
Yeah, for that only I'm waiting for a right person to speak with the particular ministry. Because as an academician, I cannot change the rules of Anna University or else any of the university.
Don't underestimate the power of academy, like particularly Anna University. You have a seminar on this kind of a thing and bring out these things. You ask people like Dr. Gopal or somebody like that, he will come up with 100 ideas on that. So you start with that academic activity, okay? That will be the starting point for bringing about a change. Now, there is so much of discussion on ChatGPT. Now, one way is you can have a seminar on how to use ChatGPT, that is fine. But how not to use ChatGPT, can you have a seminar, one-day seminar? You ask Dorek Kandan, he will organize with the Cyber Society of India. They have
fine.
Several programs with Anna University. I used to be in Chennai, so I have worked with Chennai. So start with that. If academicians start...
yeah, I know you personally, sir.
I say, okay. So if you start working on that, then others also will start discussing that. And now, as I told you, G20 subcommittee is there. This Amrita group is actually heading that subcommittee on civil society. So I have actually presented this to them also. I hope they will also take it further. But all of us have to work together in this. I am maybe calling myself a private sector person. You may be calling yourself as an academic person. But I think we have our own roles to play here. You may get a law college and get into drafting and other things. That's a different.
Arts also.
So we
Arts
work,
and science also. Okay.
yeah. And sociologists have to come in. The social psychology is what I'm trying to advocate. When I say
Yeah.
that when we started using mobiles, we lost the memory of numbers. It is true. No, you see how person could remember, say 50, 100 this thing. I know my student days when numbers used to be in my mind so much that in physics, I was a physics student. And I used to reproduce these numbers in the examination. Sometimes I myself used to get a doubt that if somebody sees this, they may think that I have copied this number because some 8 digits, 10 digits, some several things, it used to remain in my memory. Today, I'm not able to have that kind of a memory because it is no longer required. Why should I waste my brain space for things which are not required? That is the kind of psychological changes which the developments like this may bring in, that actually the humanities persons will have to actually come into this discussion. Then perhaps we will have one more angle to this. Neuro rights, for example, we invited that Rafael Yuste, a Colombian professor. He's actually a science professor. He himself is telling that we need neuro rights. He's not a legal person. So like that, academicians in their own, these things have to come up. We are all opinion leaders in a way. So don't underestimate Anna University. If Anna University does one this thing, and I think it will give enough publicity to this cause. I request Mr. Doraikanayan, please talk to Shankar Gomati and then work out something on this.
And one more personal question, sir. Actually, our brain, if we inbuilt with the particular chip which is having a superpower,
Yeah.
then will it not get radiation to the body? Because now itself, because of the long tower, we have so many providers we have. So our health is getting affected due to that compared to the olden people.
Agreed. Cyborgs, we don't know what will be the medical effect of a cyborg who is getting radiated, but some people may say it is enough if I am a king for 5 years rather than living useless for several years. Okay, so if I can become a cyborg, then you imagine, say in sports, why do people take drugs? Okay, they take drugs because they have a short-term glory. Likewise, this also may happen, and chip itself is not actually giving radiations. What I'm saying is the chip will have a Wi-Fi kind of a thing. So for externally, you are sending instructions, and that will go directly into the brain. And neuron activity is nothing but an electromagnetic activity like cells. So it will change that. It is used effectively for curing epilepsy, Alzheimer's disease, and other things. Only thing is, it can also be used for wrong purposes, is what I'm trying to say. You have seen some movies, at least, in which these things have happened. People, who am I, kind of a thing. Okay, people have forgotten who they are because they have been operated in the brain and they have been changed into a certain different personality. This identity loss is one of the neuro rights which people want to be protected. So I should know who I am. Okay, you cannot implant something in my mind and forget that I am who I am. Okay, so that is a fundamental right, more fundamental than privacy. So that is the kind of discussions we need to have. I'm again saying that solution is not at the end of the tunnel or something like that. It's not visible, but probably if we all start discussing, we will be moving towards the solution.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, Ramesh, you have got anything more to add? Anybody else?
So, in this case, the human is certainly
You are not very audible. Some problem with the audio. Yeah, Malesh.
sir. Am I audible?
Not very clear actually to me. Yeah, you please make your point. If I
I'll
can
just-
capture something else.
I will write that.
You can always contact me outside this. We will plan out something necessary. Okay. So if there are no other questions, shall we wind up? So thank you, friends. We'll keep in touch and keep track of what I'm doing in FDPPI and the AI area. Maybe I need the assistance of technology people also to take this further. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.